On screen, they were flawless, gods and goddesses of the golden age Hollywood dream factory. Suits pressed to perfection, gowns dripping with diamonds, smiles that could melt the silver screen. Audiences worshipped them as icons of beauty, grace, and sophistication. But what if I told you that behind the cameras, many of these glamorous legends carried a stench that no perfume could hide? The shocking truth is that some of the most beloved stars of Hollywood's golden era were hiding some of the filthiest hygiene habits imaginable. We're talking about actors who refused to bathe for days, screen sirens who rarely brushed their teeth, leading men whose breath reeked so badly that co-stars nearly gagged during love scenes. The disconnect between what the world saw and what insiders knew was nothing short of revolting. It's a side of stardom that studios worked tirelessly to cover up. After all, how could America's sweethearts also be walking health hazards? Yet buried beneath the glitter and glamour lies a truth that's both shocking and darkly hilarious. Welcome to Vintage Hollywood Files, where we strip away the illusions and expose the raw, unwashed secrets of the stars you thought you knew. Clark Gable. He was the king of Hollywood, the ruggedly handsome leading man whose smile lit up classics like Gone with the Wind. Women adored him, men wanted to be him. But behind that dashing grin lay one of the most infamous hygiene scandals in Golden Age Hollywood. Clark Gable suffered from terrible dental problems, so severe that his breath was described by co-stars as absolutely unbearable. Vivien Leigh, who starred opposite him as Scarlett O'Hara, once confessed that kissing him on set was pure torture. According to crew members, the odor was so overpowering that scenes had to be shot quickly before Leigh literally gagged. The irony? While millions of fans swooned over his romantic screen presence, his leading ladies dreaded getting too close. Gable also had a notorious reputation for rarely bathing, believing that a quick splash of cologne was enough to mask the stench. But as insiders whispered, no amount of fragrance could cover the truth. He may have been Hollywood royalty, but his personal habits proved that even kings can reek. Number 2. Marlon Brando. Marlon Brando was the ultimate rebel of Golden Age Hollywood, a man whose talent was as legendary as his disregard for social norms. On screen, he was magnetic, a raw force of masculinity in films like A Streetcar Named Desire and On the Waterfront. But off-screen, whispers followed him everywhere. Brando smelled terrible. Crew members and co-stars recalled that he often skipped showers for days, showing up on set drenched in sweat and body odor. His personal hygiene was so notorious that some directors reportedly begged him to clean up before filming love scenes. Yet Brando, stubborn to the core, dismissed such concerns, believing that natural grit made him more authentic as an actor. Then there was his eating, an obsession that left stains, crumbs, and smells clinging to his clothes. At one point, insiders joked that Brando was as infamous for his stench as he was for his genius. Tragically, his brilliance ensured that no one dared challenge him directly. He redefined acting forever, but also proved that even Hollywood's brightest star could reek behind the glamour. Would you still call him a genius if you had to work beside him? Number 3. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford built her empire on discipline. Every pose, every glance, every inch of her being was designed to project immaculate glamour. To fans, she was the very definition of sophistication. Yet insiders knew that behind those famous scarlet lips lurked a dental disaster that left many co-stars wincing. Following a trend set by Marlene Dietrich, Crawford underwent a bizarre dental procedure in which several molars were removed to sharpen the hollows of her cheeks. The result may have enhanced her face on camera, but it left her mouth vulnerable to infection. Decay, swelling, and painful gum disease plagued her for decades. By her 60s, she required near-constant dental care, and her trademark lip shape, a feature adored by fans, was in fact the product of years of painful complications. Makeup artists often whispered about the irony. Crawford obsessed over spotless homes, polished nails, and pristine wardrobes, yet her mouth reeked of chronic infection. Directors had to angle shots carefully as her smile grew harder to photograph. She remains a towering icon, but her story proves the brutal lengths stars endured to maintain Hollywood's illusion of beauty. Number 4. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin, the genius behind the tramp, revolutionized cinema with his wit, pathos, and unforgettable mustache. On screen, he was a lovable underdog. Off-screen, however, Chaplin's hygiene was the subject of endless whispers in Golden Age Hollywood. Despite his wealth and status, Chaplin was rumored to neglect the basics of grooming. He often wore the same clothes for days, his shirt stained with food, sweat, and tobacco. Several co-stars recalled that intimate scenes with him were less than pleasant. His breath, tainted by endless cigars, was said to be overpowering, and his hands, often unwashed, left makeup artists sighing in frustration. Chaplin's obsession with work only made matters worse. He would spend days on set without proper rest, bathing, or fresh clothing, driven by perfectionism that ignored personal upkeep. The irony is striking. A man who carefully crafted silent images that defined cinematic beauty couldn't maintain the same polish in real life. Fans adored his artistry, but insiders quietly admitted that working too close to him was an entirely different experience. What do you think? Does genius excuse neglect? Or does it make the flaws even harder to forgive? Number 5. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn was the ultimate swashbuckler. Swords flashing, charm dripping, every woman in the audience swooning. But behind the velvet costumes and dashing grin, Flynn carried a reputation that was far less romantic. Whispered about in studio corridors and splashed across scandal sheets, his hygiene was said to be almost as reckless as his personal life. Colleagues remembered him showing up to set after nights of debauchery, reeking of alcohol, sweat, and stale cologne, desperately masking the odor. Love scenes that looked breathtaking on screen were, according to co-stars, nearly unbearable in person. Flynn was also infamous for rarely bathing during long stretches, bragging that his natural musk was part of his masculinity. What made the irony even sharper was that women adored him, swooning at premieres, begging for autographs, never suspecting that the hero who swung from chandeliers could also clear a room with his scent. Insiders quipped that Flynn's greatest acting achievement was convincing the world he smelled as good as he looked. Comment if you think he was just a wild rebel, or do if you think he was simply careless. Number 6. W.C. Fields. W.C. Fields was Hollywood's great comic curmudgeon, famous for his biting wit, his bulbous nose, and his endless one-liners. But while audiences laughed at his grumpy charm, those who worked beside him endured something far less amusing: his notorious lack of hygiene. Fields was a man practically pickled in alcohol. He drank so heavily that the fumes seemed to seep from his skin, leaving an ever-present odor of gin that clung to costumes, props, and unlucky co-stars. His teeth, badly neglected, added another layer to the stench, with insiders claiming his breath could sour an entire rehearsal. Bathing was another issue. Colleagues whispered that Fields often skipped showers altogether, convinced a splash of cologne or a quick rinse of his face would suffice. In reality, the result was a haze of liquor, sweat, and stale smoke that followed him like a permanent cloud. Ironically, the man who made millions laugh was privately a walking cautionary tale of excess. His genius in comedy was undeniable, but his hygiene, or lack thereof, was the kind of punchline no one dared say aloud. Number 7. Spencer Tracy. Spencer. Tracy was revered as one of Golden Age Hollywood's finest actors, admired for his naturalistic performances in films like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. To audiences, he radiated quiet dignity and strength. But behind the curtain, Tracy battled demons that left his hygiene in shambles. A lifelong alcoholic, Tracy often arrived on set still sweating out the night before. The smell of liquor clung to his clothes and seeped from his pores, leaving co-stars struggling to mask their discomfort. His breath, sour with whiskey, became legendary on studio lots, and some actresses quietly complained that love scenes with him required all the acting skill they possessed. Tracy's drinking also led him to neglect grooming altogether. Shaving became sporadic, his clothes often wrinkled, stained, and carrying the stale odor of cigarettes. Yet because of his immense talent, directors tolerated what would have sunk lesser stars. Ironically, the man who appeared so composed on screen was anything but off-camera. His story highlights how even brilliance couldn't conceal the rot that fame and addiction left behind. Number 8. Marlene Dietrich. Marlene Dietrich was the ultimate goddess of Golden Age Hollywood, a woman whose smoldering eyes and husky voice made her the very definition of seduction. On stage and screen, she appeared flawless, draped in sequins and furs, every inch a symbol of impossible glamour. But those who worked closely with her knew a secret that contradicted the fantasy. Dietrich's personal hygiene left much to be desired. Despite her obsession with image, tailored suits, perfectly arched brows, and meticulously lit performances, Dietrich was infamous for her avoidance of regular bathing. Crew members whispered that she relied heavily on perfume and powder to mask body odor rather than soap and water. Her love of heavy exotic fragrances only intensified the effect, creating a cloying mix that lingered on costumes and in dressing rooms. Ironically, the woman who cultivated an aura of icy perfection often made co-stars squirm when the cameras stopped rolling. Still, her charisma was so powerful that most forgave the unpleasant reality. Dietrich proved that even Hollywood's most glamorous goddess could harbor secrets that no spotlight could erase. Number 9. Orson Welles. Orson Welles was hailed as a boy genius, the visionary behind Citizen Kane, and one of the most creative forces in Golden Age Hollywood. On screen and in interviews, he projected brilliance and authority, a towering presence both physically and artistically. Yet behind the legend, Welles was infamous for personal habits that made him nearly unbearable up close. Known for his voracious appetite, Welles often gorged on heavy meals between takes, leaving traces of food and grease on his costumes. Assistants whispered that his clothes frequently carried the smell of whatever feast he'd just devoured. Combined with chain-smoking cigars and an irregular bathing routine, the result was a cloud of odor that clung to him wherever he went. As his weight ballooned in later years, the problem worsened. Crews quietly joked that his genius filled the screen, but his presence emptied the room. Directors and co-stars tolerated it because his name guaranteed box office draw, but privately many dreaded close work with him. The irony was cruel. A man who elevated film to an art form could not master the most basic art of self-care. Number 10. Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow, the original blonde bombshell, electrified audiences of the 1930s with her platinum hair, sultry smile, and playful sensuality. She seemed untouchable, a goddess sculpted for the silver screen. But beneath the dazzling image, Harlow carried habits and struggles that chipped away at the illusion of perfection. Her iconic platinum look was achieved by dousing her hair with toxic bleaches and ammonia rinses, a process so harsh that it left her scalp raw and often emitted a sharp chemical odor noticeable to those around her. Insiders recalled that the acrid smell clung to costumes, dressing rooms, and even her co-stars during close scenes. Combined with heavy makeup and grueling studio hours, Harlow's hygiene often faltered. Exhaustion left little room for regular self-care. Tragically, her fragile health amplified the problem. Kidney disease weakened her body, and the glamorous veneer Hollywood sold to the world concealed a woman in constant pain. She died at just 26, forever frozen as a radiant star, yet privately remembered for the toll that beauty and fame took on her very body. What do you think? Was her allure worth the price she paid? The hidden truths behind 10 of Golden Age Hollywood's brightest stars, whose dazzling images masked some of the most unpleasant realities. These were the legends the studios sold as flawless gods and goddesses. Yet when the cameras stopped rolling, The smell of alcohol, tobacco, sweat, or even toxic chemicals revealed how human they truly were. It's easy to laugh or gasp at these stories, but there's also a lesson here. The pressure to maintain impossible beauty standards, the lack of health awareness at the time, and the relentless studio system all contributed to these grim realities. Behind every perfect smile was pain, and behind every glamorous gown was a body pushed past its limits. For us today, it's a reminder that the cost of perfection is often higher than the glory it brings. No amount of fame, money, or adoration could erase the damage of neglecting health and well-being. If you found these stories eye-opening, don't forget to support Vintage Hollywood Files by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with fellow film buffs. Now tell me, which of these hygiene secrets shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be waiting to read them.